Welcome everyone to another Monday Win by Noon webinar. As you know, I'm the founder of Win by Noon. I'm Todd Bookspan, and I'm super excited to hear on this Monday. And I'm joined as always by my fabulous co-host, the CEO and founder of Plug and Play SM. Welcome, Deborah Bird.
Well, usually always, we had a little special treat last week of my substitute that looked just like me, just a little bit longer hair. So I'm excited to be here and excited to dive deeper into this whole Chick-fil-A type process that I think any loan officer, no matter the size of your team, even if it's just you or real estate agent or title rep or insurance rep, anyone could adopt this. So I'm excited.
Well, and I think that's the key, right? I enjoyed the interview so much, and it did seem kind of weird, talking to you, but with, with glasses. If I was really good, I'd have my prop ready, but I can't quite reach it over there, which is my reader glasses. I don't think there's, here we go. I could pretend.
That's a challenge sometimes.
These are my wife's readers. See, here we go. I can pretend. See, look, it's my twin.
There you go.
Todd, the Win by Noon nerd.
There you go.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun talking to her, and I really wanted to keep that conversation alive. And granted, she is one of the superstars of the mortgage industry, but as you mentioned, I feel like regardless of the sales world you're in, I think there's some takeaways that can be put into play. But there's no doubt that the loan officers who are watching this will have more insight into some of the stuff that she's built into her process, that as a mortgage loan officer builds and scales a team that they'll want to build into their process as well.
And that's probably the most overlooked thing. And I have clients that ask me all the time, or they'll say, I want to be like you and the nerd, or I want a social presence like the nerd and a brand like hers. And I like that she explained, and she usually says this, she didn't on this call, but don't compare your chapter 2 to her chapter 20, where it didn't start off this way. And how it became the brand that everyone sees and loves today is really because of consistency and not taking your foot off the gas, even when it's challenging and it's tough. And, we all hear the same, I didn't get into the business. I got licensed, whether that was to be a loan officer or a real estate agent, to help people with homes, not to be this marketer that's online. And, so why people fall in love with her today is not how it started back in 2012 or 2013, because there were some bumps along the way, but I will say and give her full credit, she has always been consistent. And like we know, consistency and persistence over time wins. So.
Well, and that's it, of course, and it didn't hurt that she has Plug and Play SMU along there helping her with the social media presence that she's created. And I think that that's where, quick side plug for you is where you make it easy for people, to do it. And ultimately what you did for her for all those years is now what you're doing for the rest of the industry. So I think that's really awesome.
It is, we do try to make it the easy button, but it's still, I never want to diminish, it's still hard work. I give themed days, so I follow the Win by Noon planner. In fact, for clients that sign up with us that are influencers, Adam and I have worked on a plug and play edition of the planner that's very social friendly of what activities you should and could be doing, but it's still carving out that time. And I've discovered if you replace that appointment that's time blocked, instead of putting video marketing and making that your jam session, I usually say make that at least 30 minutes to an hour to record and write scripts. But I would retitle that as just marketing appointment. And that's an appointment with yourself that is meant for you to do that. If you're going to do one thing online, if you don't have a team that's helping you with some of the social graphics in the background, then the one item I would say to absolutely double down on is the short form vertical video content that you can easily record with your phone. I usually recommend you use the back camera because that's a better, make sure you clean the lens. That's an easy way to consistently have a plan and strategy that's time blocked, that is a commitment to yourself where you're just going to break down problem solution. So if that's the framework I tell people to kind of focus on, is if you wrote down, today's problems, whether it's a home buyer, seller, what are their problems? And I mean, really refine it to very simple, like 10-year-old language. In fact, sometimes I see with loan officers, they say the word mortgage, or they're so focused on the in-process type problems, which is only beneficial when you have someone who's already raised their hand for wanting to get a mortgage. But if you're a real estate agent or even a loan officer, you've got to hit on the problems that sometimes people don't even know that they have to get people to raise their hand. So write out your problems in a 10-year-old, like if you can't explain it to a 10-year-old, it's too complicated. Refine, 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 remove as many fluff words as possible. So it's short and sweet. Discuss the solution. And then most important is the hook. So I usually start with the problem because it makes it easier when you're writing the hook. And I tend to follow the, avoiding a pain or gaining a benefit. Like this, people either want to save money and they don't want to lose money. So here's, in fact, the graphic I used today, which is going to be in my coaching video for this week, is how it's a graph showing how rents have increased at the same pace as hourly wages throughout time. So the challenge with that is a rent trap. Here's what landlords don't want you to know. That's a hook. It's short, it's sweet. And then you would talk about the problem. So you would discuss the data, and then solution is how you solve that problem for clients. So that's just my little nugget of social and how to help get you out there quicker, faster, that anybody can do with an iPhone or an Android. If you use an Android, I won't make my little joke, but you can easily do this just following that simple script and carving out time every Monday to do.
That was so good. What a great gift. Thank you.
I literally just had Denise call me at this time, but yes, that's a little giveaway for all of you listening. And I want to see people executing this. And if you have questions, you guys can ask me or DM me. I have tons of things just even on my YouTube channel, or if you follow Modern Mortgage Summit, of little nuggets of how to make sure little things like your bio is optimized, so you're converting clients over. So
love it. Love it. In fact, speaking of Denise, so I threw into the chat here, and I'll make sure I get it posted in the Win by Noon community, the link to the video. It was really one of the best videos I've seen. I even went out after it was recorded and I gave my highlights to my wife, who runs our mortgage team. And so I thought it was just packed full of nuggets. And I felt bad because, our goal was 30 to 45 minutes and we went like 47 or 48 minutes, but I could have kept her on for another half an hour. It was so good. And so Deborah and I haven't compared notes of who's got which key takeaways that you can implement to make your business really, we call it the Chick-fil-A thing, but really, can you have a better process, right? Right now, customer experience is everything, right? Doesn't matter what business you're in. If you can provide a better customer experience, guess what? You're going to get more customers. You're going to get more 5-star reviews, and that is going to lead towards more customers and more referrals. And so, all right, I said I'd let you go first. So what is your first key idea that someone needs to implement in order to streamline and Chick-fil-A their business?
I like the in-process videos. So when you can take time, when you're clear-headed, you're not distracted, if you can think of those key milestones throughout the process that you can record generic enough that every time a loan, as soon as you send a file, maybe disclosures are sent, or as soon as the file is sent to processing or underwriting, or once it's conditioned, all those little milestones. If you can streamline that in your CRM where it's automated and it's being sent, that's how we made Denise look like she was the one handling the loan, and they felt like it was her when it wasn't her. And it was her way to CYA on, instead of, scripting her team, her 4 assistants that she has over and over and over. Now we could just replace it with this video that is housed in YouTube. It's a private link that she then embeds in her CRM. And it's a way to make sure that no matter the situation, if you're ill, whoever's file it is, it's her way at how she would deliver that script every single time, so that there's no inconsistency with that client experience. And if you notice, and kind of the test I always ask people is, what do your client reviews? What are they saying is your value? And if you notice, most of her reviews, which she has a lot of them, they all say her communication. And I bet it's largely due to that proactive video communication that's anticipating challenges based off the phase. That's not overwhelming because it's chunked down into micro phases, where you're anticipating those questions and you're answering them ahead of time, which also frees up time in your email inbox and your assistants being asked questions and the risk of them not answering it the same way you would. So my number one was the in-process videos that she does.
All right, so let me ask a few questions. I think that'll be helpful, because number one, we'll make a couple statements and then ask some questions. Number one is you don't have to have a CRM and embed it in there. You can create templates in Outlook and you can put it in there and you can push it out yourself. If you're thinking, well, I don't have a fancy CRM, I don't know how to do that. Again, I want to get the roadblocks out of your way. But yes, the the high level implementation is put in your CRM. Someone changes the stage and it automatically shoots out. And in this case, it shoots out from Denise, so they think she sent it. So tips, I think one is I've never used a secret YouTube link. When they go there, does it say like, you're 727th person to watch it, or does it just make it look like
no, because it doesn't, because it's listed as private. I should probably double check that, and just because I haven't seen her account on as logged in as her, I don't think they've changed that feature. I will double check it and let the group know, but I don't think it shows you the view count when it's private.
Because so really the key then is you don't say like, hey y'all, you're like, hey, here's the next step in your process, right? You're just you're talking directly to one person when you send that out. Would that be the tip on that?
Absolutely. That's why we never used a name. And I say YouTube because it's it's easily deliverable. If you try to attach a video, for those of you who've never tried this, sometimes the video is too large where you can't send it in an email, but you can definitely hyperlink the words, save that as a email signature in your Outlook if you want, so it's repeatable. But everyone has access to YouTube. It's not like Vimeo, where sometimes there's issues when people try to click on the link. So I like YouTube for that reason, because it's quick, it's easy, everyone can open it. You can choose to make it an unlisted link or a private link, but again, you don't have to overcomplicate it. It could be as simple as just an email signature in Outlook.
Well, and so email signatures was going to be my first thing I talked about. Since you
Oh,
already know that's great though. So, I mean, I think you nailed it because you took it up the notch, put the email in there. I say worst case, this still counts as tip number one. I'm not going to my tip number two, which I'll do in one sec, but worst case is create an email template that gives the bullet points of the next steps of the process. But I would just say this, everything that she's done in her business is templated emails as well. So even when the team is sending emails out, they're using templates so that it's written in a way that makes sense, that there's consistency. And so as you're going to bring on other people, you write the templates when it's just you and you get really comfortable with it. And then when you bring on other people, then they can use your template, and then they're using your words and doing it how you want it to be done. And so there you go, 2 tips for the price of 1. And so, I think what I would say for my first one, I got to look back at my notes and decide which one I'm going to do. So, all right, here's what I say. So the other thing that she did a great job of, which is a little bit like what you did, but I would say it's how do you launch into process? And I think most of the time when I was doing loans, I was like, well, I've got to launch them personally into the process and tell them what's next. And so what I would do is start doing what Denise does. I went to a mortgage originator magazine seminar back in 2002. Let's date myself. And it was really funny because this guy got up, his name was Jeff Lake. He's out of Chicago. He's kind of a legend there. And he taught this doctor nurse way for taking a loan application. And he said, over here on the side of my office is my assistant. She's sitting there and she's asking all the questions. And I'm at this desk over here, which I'm thinking to myself, well, that's just going to distract the heck out of me. And I work. And then eventually it's my turn. And I come over there, I do the quick consultation. I slide my chair over like when the doctor comes in, and then I go back out. And he said, it takes about an hour to 90 minutes. And then I remember Barry Habib coming in afterwards, and Barry Habib said, gosh, I don't know what you've heard, but taking an application in person is a waste of time. He says, I can't imagine taking something that you should be able to get done in 15 minutes and having to take an hour or more. And so what Denise is doing is she's videoing her presentation to the client. So she's got all the data that she needs. So number one is its preparation is everything. So you have to prepare if you're doing the call live anyway. So she had her total cost analysis, which maybe if you're a real estate agent, you're working on writing an offer, reviewing offers, it's getting your CMA together, your comparative market analysis. Then she has the information on their credit, on what they might owe debts on. So that way, if she's going to say, hey, maybe you might want to do a lower down payment and pay off this debt instead, and here's why I think that's good. And then she walks them through, screen records it all, and then sends it off in an email. So she could do that. So it's a 10-minute email typically. You could do that you could have a 30 to 45-minute phone call and go back and forth, but she's having huge success in just sending the email out. So to me, that's a paradigm shift, right? She's not, she said she's not having to jump on the phone afterwards and spend a lot of time with clients. They're being able to make a choice off from that. And then her team is actually able to do the follow-up. So for me, that was just this big paradigm shift of, hey, it doesn't have to be me. It can be me, but in my time, I can record that video at 6 a.m. after I've done my workout. I can record that video at 10 a.m. when they can't talk to me till 5 p.m. It's just a huge game changer. So I would say whatever that key piece of the presentation that's you can't pre-record, like Deborah just talked about in idea number one, that you want to get across, I would say record that and send it out. And I think that even if you are the person who gets on the phone with them next, it's going to save time. I can't imagine that if it was going to take 30 to 45 minutes, you did a 10-minute recording and then you did maybe a 5 or 10-minute follow-up, it's still half the time it might have taken otherwise. So that would be my idea number two.
Well, and when she starts though, she reminds people, I wanted to send you this video in case you wanted to rewatch it a couple times. Because remember, most people, they only remember like 2% of what you say after 2 weeks. So this gives all different types of learners and listeners. It's hard to sometimes coordinate maybe both spouses to be on one call at the same time. So again, it was looking at her process and how do you remove as much friction as you can. That also with part of framing when you deliver that video is like it was from a very sincere and caring place of, hey, I wanted to record this so you could watch it as many times as you could, or if you needed to show a spouse or a family member, this is yours to stop, pause, go back at any time so that you can remember some of these key, strategies that I'm talking to you about today. But it also didn't happen. I mean, she trained her frontline people consistently giving them feedback. So all I would say is when you're bringing people on board, make sure you have time blocked of known feedback time, because it was like people knew they were going to be coached up at that time and they didn't have to wonder, am I doing things correctly? And she was consistent with giving that feedback of this was good. Here's what I would do a little bit differently until the baton was passed to her to just record the video where, she was wanting to build a business where she could get to the right side of the quadrant and didn't have to always be the employee of the practice. It was, how do I free up as much time as possible while still be the brand? But she really never talks to the client really at all throughout the process. It's just that one recorded video. And it's pretty genius. So she can just spend all of her time creating content.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. And again, so a couple of thoughts is you just nailed it, right? It's that telephone game. How many times have you explained something to a client and they totally botched it up when they explained it to their spouse, or they have to explain it to mom and dad who are part of the decision maker. So here, your words get straight to them. And then I do think it's, again, goes back to where you started, where you kind of gave your impromptu social media pitch. I mean, she's got more time to do it because she's more systematized. And again, think about this. This is where you've got to be as the sole proprietor of your business right now. Start putting on that CEO hat now and think about the expansion in the future. And so if you build these processes now and start doing it now, and you do that video, you send it out, great. I think that's the key. That's how you move out of that operator quadrant over into the CEO quadrant. So I think that is, I think that's pretty dang good. I love it. All right. So what's idea number three?
Idea number three, and I know this may sound basic to some of you, but it's having your Calendly link, whether that's attached to like on her website. It's either on her website, it's always in her email signature, it's on her Linktree account on social. You've got to have the easy button prepared. And if you've never heard of Calendly, it's a way for people to schedule time with you in case they do want a phone call, or maybe they do want the Zoom call. Again, it may not be with you, it could be with a member on your team. But instead of having all that back and forth, which can create friction of like trying to coordinate a time, it's having the easy link, which we would always set up in about 20-minute increments, or sometimes an hour if it's called a strategy call. But it's an easy way, again, whether it's on your bio for social media or on your website, for people to schedule time with you if that is their preferred method, but it's also systematized because it links to your Outlook calendar. So you can now control how people interrupt your day. So if you're winning by noon and you have time blocks and you know that there's certain power hours that you want those initial client consultations or maybe strategy sessions, or a way for partners to schedule time with you, you can create different links all on Calendly that's connected to your Outlook calendar. So you're training people how to use your time. And when you train them up front, they will actually honor your process. Just most people don't have a process, or they don't communicate it to where it's not just you call and interrupt me at any time when you think it's a 911. It's here's a link that you can call and schedule time so we can be intentional about our time together.
Love that. So yeah, Calendly is the most common one. There's also one called Schedule Once, and then some other CRMs have them built in, but you can just find online calendar link. And what I'm finding is more and more people will use it. It's not for everybody. Every once in a while, I laugh. There was a post sometime, it'd be last year, where someone was complaining about someone sending them a
Mm,
link to want to schedule. And then a bunch of people said, "Oh, I'm happy to talk to you about it. Just schedule a call with me on my link." And
mm.
it saves all the go back and forth of what time's good for you. Oh, let me check with my wife. And then you're like, "Oh, no, I can't do that time. What about this time?" Or, "Hey, give me 3 times that work." Like, most people don't have 3 times that work. And so it works really well. You can set up different length calls on there. So I've got a 15, a 30, a 45, and an hour Calendly link. I do use Calendly myself. And the other cool part is you can change schedules. So normally when I'm at home, I don't actually talk to anyone. I let my calendar be open from 1 to 4 during the week, sometimes noon to 4, depends on where the time zone shift is, Monday through Thursday. And they can schedule. Well, now I've got I call it my summer schedule, because I'm out in California. And now you can actually schedule up until 2 p.m. And then the rest of the day, I want the flexibility that, I have no idea. My family's out there planning something to do when I get off of this webinar. And I don't know what it is, but I started work early, got all my stuff done, took a walk on the beach, recorded a Facebook Live. I don't know if you saw that, Deborah Bird. You should have
Oh,
been
I
like,
haven't seen it yet.
yeah. I think
Yay.
it was good. It wasn't my best, but I had an idea on the boardwalk a week ago and I didn't execute. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to remember this. I'm going to execute." I said, "Forget it. I'm going to execute it now." My wife and daughter were walking up collecting seashells. And again, it's
For
good.
you.
It's good. It's a valuable tip. It may not be as well executed and articulated as had I thought about it for more than about 67 seconds. But so I think that's really good. And then you have to also have a reminder to yourself, if the person doesn't do the Calendly link, then to follow up, and just don't be offended by it. But it's my team has its own branch of Comma Insurance. And so when they do an email introduction to our Comma Insurance agent, it has scheduled a link with him. And so oftentimes they'll say, when they'll follow up with him, say, "Hey, did you get a hold of them?" They're like, "Oh, they already scheduled on my calendar." So he's finding, I forgot the percentage, maybe it's between a third and a half that are actually automatically scheduling. But part of it, I would consider to do it as well as to build it into your script. Meaning, "Hey,
Hmm.
awesome. Hey, throughout the process, it's going to sound really, seem really cold, but I've got this calendar link that I'll put in all of my emails to you. And at any point that you've got a quick question for me, you can schedule time. Just click on the link and schedule it. It'll automatically pop up my calendar. You don't have to worry. I keep my calendar up to date and accurate. You don't have to worry that it's going to be disturbing something. If there's another appointment there, it won't let you schedule, during that time. And I think you're going to find, again, make it a benefit to them. I think you're going to find it'll be a lot easier than if you're worried about, "Oh, I wonder if I call now, I'll be able to get a hold of someone." You can always just call me. But I find that this is my clients tell me this is the easy button for them to communicate with me during the process, right? Set it up as a benefit to them, as opposed to something you're doing for you, which is ultimately what is a better way for you to plan your day.
Well, and that's exactly it. Framing is always important. And that's how the team does frame it is, if at any time, whether it's 2 a.m., you have that freak out moment, if you feel the need to schedule a meeting, you want to give them the choice. Would you want that to be, maybe it's a Zoom, maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's just an email, but you have access 24/7, 365 to an up-to-date calendar. When you feel like you need more support, we're going to be here for you. And so that was just one small little tweak. And I took that for granted. I thought a lot of people knew about Calendly until I've been just coaching my own clients on utilizing a Linktree account and making sure your Calendly is synced. And I have discovered that not a lot of people know all the benefits of Calendly and the different workflows, that it will even send you a reminder text of when your calls are coming up. And so it just helps guard your time and be laser focused when you are winning by noon and owning your day. And when people can schedule and interrupt that time, the more you can protect your time, the better. So
All right, last thing I'll say on that, and then I'll get my last tip so we can end this call on time, is that then you also just have to be looking ahead on your calendar, right? You can say you can let it be for 30 days or 60 days ahead. I try to keep mine short for 30 days, and I can go out 30 days. So it's just part of my ritual is I go out to the next month and I look, are there any days I don't want to work? So like I'm here till August 5th. August 5th, we're moving out of here. Well, guess what? I don't want to talk to anyone that day. So I just went on my calendar. I said block, and I just blocked it off. And on my calendar on my phone. So I use mine's hooked to my iCal calendar on my phone, and I just said block. So literally after the mortgage coach call, it's blocked the whole day, so that nobody can schedule anything with me that day. So I can just be focused on loading up the truck in the car and hitting the road with with the family. So you do have to be a little careful there. Like one of my pet peeves, and I haven't been perfect with it. Don't get, I've had to reschedule, is when I schedule someone and they miss it, or they're like, oh, I had a conflict at that time. And so you just also want to be looking ahead and making sure that you keep a tight lid on that. And you might be, just because you're in a transactional business, you might only need to have it be a week out or 2 weeks out that someone can schedule with you. But I just had a guy text me before now saying, hey, are you available on Wednesday at 11? And I looked, I'm like, well, no, you shouldn't. You have my link in my head. You have my link. Didn't you see it? I'm like, no, I have something on Wednesday at 11. He's like, oh, no. Next Wednesday, the 27th at 11, I go to it and he's already scheduled. I'm like, you scheduled? I said, my calendar's up to date as always, and we're good. And I'm like, okay, great. So that is my last thought there. All right. So my final point, maybe I should have made this my first point, but my final point is have a written process. And I would be really granular with your written process, because ultimately you're not going to know what these pieces are. So I would just start off with, in the left column of an Excel spreadsheet, what are all the points of the process? And then whether it's internal or external, and then who's going to take care of the step. And so right now you're going to want to put, if you're a realtor, you could put, me, and then you could put transaction coordinator, and then you could put showing assistant, all the future jobs you may have. And they all are going to be you for now. In the mortgage business, it could be, loan officer assistant, it could be, pre-underwriter, whatever that role is. And now you're doing all those roles. That's okay. But you want to write it out. And then you want to have another column, which is there any other pieces that go with it? Is there a templated email? And then the next column is there any media that goes with it? Is there a video link, that could be there? And so that way you've got this planned out process. And then you're going to go through it and you're going to check it and say, okay, do I have all the pieces covered? And then you have to do a review meeting with yourself, if it's just you, or with your team. Maybe it's just you and one other person, after you run the first client through that process, and say, okay, what do we need to tweak? What didn't we do? Is there something we can subtract? Because you want to keep it simple, but you also don't want to miss anything. And then you can create sub processes in there. Like on the loan side, you could have, here's what a loan officer assistant is going to do. You're going to, application comes, you're going to pull credit, you're going to review the documents, you're going to do, X, Y, and Z. You can have a subset for that specific, subset of tasks for that specific piece of it. But ultimately, I think you've got to write it out, be really granular, because again, the more granular you are, the more specificity you put around it, then the more likely it is you're going to execute at the high level and have thought it through on the level that you can have it become a Chick-fil-A process at the end.
Love it. And, when you do that, that eliminates not having the return sandwiches where your pipeline gets clogged of people who ordered a sandwich with no pickles and they got a sandwich with pickles. So when you have a very clear process, the only thing I would extend to that is make sure you take it beyond just the closing. So one of her admins, that's one of their main jobs, is making sure that 30, 60, 90 days post closing, and she mentioned the nerd alumni with the once a month financial literacy email that goes out. Like, those are some of the touches that you keep doing beyond just the transaction. So you're really building that family and community feeling of not just a one and done, but this is how she's been able to maintain and grow a business intrinsically just by, staying in touch even after the close.
All right. I think that is a good, kind of a good summary there. And so I think in the end, I started with it, and I'll say it again, is that customer experience matters now more than ever, right? I think it's mattered, and every year it's gained with social, with reviews. It really does matter. And every lead matters now more than ever, right? There's not, I got so many leads, if I lose a couple, it matters. Like right now, every lead matters. And so having a process, and then as Denise said, Chick-fil-A is not, it's not that sexy. It's not that fancy. Your team like, can we be a better place than Chick-fil-A? But no, you want to be a place that is known for consistent customer service.
And they're not even open on Sundays,
right?
And they still do more business than most.
Yeah. And I think it's, again, the thing that I learned from there, and she mentioned on the call, was you say thank you. I always say thank you a bunch, because I always want to love it. My pleasure. It's my pleasure. I mean, they are very, very well trained, and it seems like it's a family place when you go there. And that's, I think, why at least the ones that I drive by have a funky routed around thing that goes into the street. Only them and In-N-Out Burger. And I think that again, great culture. But I think I like the idea of it being Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A your business, because you don't want to be open 7 days a week either.
Right. Yep. Quick, efficient, value. Love it. So y'all take action now. You've listened to this, and just remind everybody, Todd put the link to the YouTube channel. Make sure you've subscribed and liked the Win by Noon YouTube channel, and share this with your teams. If you're a team lead, share it with, during your next sales meeting, and make sure that, you get your team's feedback and buy-in too, of maybe where from their lens they could see of making the process better from their, department that they run.
Love it. All right, everyone. Well, thank you, Deborah Bird. Thanks again to Denise, who maybe will watch this and see what we took away from it, and then come back and correct us on what we really missed. And thanks to all of you who've watched it. If you're watching this on YouTube, yes, please hit it a like and give us a subscribe, and share with anyone else you think might benefit. We appreciate you being here. We'll be back next Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, with some more brilliance of some sort once we decide what that's going to look like. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.